Well, after a few weeks of uncertainty, it looks as if we're finally getting something every West Ham fan has been sort of crying out for, a little bit of clarity in this summer transfer window. For so long, the conversation has mainly centred around who's going to be leaving the club, with concerns about players like Jarrod Bowen, Tomas Soucek, Taty Castellanos, Dinos Mavropanos, not knowing whether they were going to stay or go. But now, one by one, we're getting answers to those concerns. Four senior players so far have publicly committed themselves to West Ham's promotion push. At the same time, one of the biggest remaining assets of the club seems to be on his way out. And it's not a surprise, really. Crysencio Summerville looks set to leave West Ham, with reports suggesting a deal worth up to 50 million euros, which includes add-ons, has been agreed. It's understood the deal should be completed before the end of the week. But today, we'll look at what those who have committed to staying at West Ham means for the club. What will Summerville's departure say about Daniel Kretinsky's rebuild? And we'll finish looking at one or two transfers that just won't go away, or transfer links that won't go away. But before I get into all of that, if you're new to the channel or if you've watched the show before but yet to become a subscriber, the QR code has appeared in the top corner here. Click on that, takes you to the subscription page. Subscription is free of charge. If you enjoy the content, why not become a subscriber? And my apologies for the quality of the video. This isn't my usual recording area. This is the last time I'll be recording. I'll be back home on later, and I'll be recording properly from the studio from there on in. So, one thing that Daniel Kretinsky has been determined to do is to create stability since West Ham got relegated. When he took control of footballing operations, there were two priorities: keeping the manager and keeping the captain. And both boxes have now been firmly ticked. But before Bowen made his announcement, there was another player who quietly made his own commitment. And that, of course, was Tomas Soucek. Soucek, he was the first player to actually publicly confirm that he'll be staying at the club. His announcement came shortly after both he and the Czech Republic exited the World Cup. And almost immediately, there were some cynical reactions online. Some supporters suggested that because Soucek had suffered an injury, which is expected to keep him out for maybe 3 months, he had little choice but to commit to West Ham. Personally, I think that's incredibly unfair. If there's one thing that nobody has ever questioned about Soucek, it's his commitment. He's never been technically brilliant. His passing frustrates fans at times, and he does divide opinion amongst the fan base, without a question. But when it comes to effort, commitment, professionalism, these are things that Soucek has delivered every single season. Since arriving from Slavia Prague, he's embraced West Ham completely. He helped us stay up in that first season that he was with us, him and Bowen. He helped us qualify for Europe. He scored a number of hugely important goals throughout his career at West Ham, and he became one of David Moyes' most trusted players. Lifting the Europa Conference League trophy, and every time he's worn the shirt, he's given absolutely everything. Now, yeah, he'll miss the opening part of the season through injury. That's unfortunate. But once he's back, having someone with his leadership skills, his aerial ability, his championship style physicality could become incredibly valuable. Promotion campaigns aren't won purely with flair players. You need experience. You need players who know how to battle, and Soucek absolutely fits that profile. And then, of course, the announcement came that everyone kind of hoped for, and that was that Jarrod Bowen was also staying. If I can get the image up, there you go. West Ham's captain. He confirmed publicly at the end of last week that he'll be staying. An enormous statement when many believe that he's actually too good for the Championship. Now, Bowen staying sets some standards at the club. We're aware that West Ham have offered Bowen a revised contract. Now, rather than completely rewriting the existing deal, the proposal is believed to be an add-on, an option of an add-on for another year beyond 2030. He will receive a significant incentive and significant bonus if he helps us to win promotion back to the Premier League. But perhaps the most interesting part of the agreement is the reported release clause. Should West Ham fail to achieve promotion this coming season, Bowen would reportedly be allowed to leave the club for a significantly reduced fee next summer. Now, that actually feels like a sensible compromise for both player and club. From Bowen's perspective, he's showing loyalty. He's giving the club everything for another season, but he's also protecting his own career if promotion doesn't happen. And from West Ham's perspective, they retain their most important player during a very important season. West Ham are no longer simply accepting that their best players have got to leave after relegation. Sure, we lost Fernandes, and sure, we're going to lose Summerville, but it looks as if those are the only two key players that we're going to be losing. Next up is a player that I'm sure we'd all be very relieved to hear about, is Crysencio Summerville. Again, reports suggest that discussions have centred around a very similar deal to that of Bowen's. Commit for a season, help deliver promotion, protect both player and club if promotion doesn't happen. It makes perfect sense. Mavropanos completely changed his status at the club last season. After being a target for boo boys the season before, he won them over. He won us all over with some of the superb displays he put in, and he won Hammer of the Year to boot. When he's fully fit and confident, he's an aggressive, athletic defender who should be amongst the better centre-halves in the Championship next season. If West Ham are going to dominate possession in many games, his ability to step forward with the ball could become increasingly popular. And then at the beginning of this week, another player has committed to West Ham. Goalkeeper Mads Hermansen publicly confirmed that he'll also be staying. Hermansen spoke about the supporters. He thanked the fans for their incredible backing throughout a difficult period. But perhaps more importantly, he admitted that now it's the players' responsibility to give something back. And that's exactly the sort of mentality that supporters want to hear. Nobody's pretending that last season was acceptable. Players know that. Now they've got an opportunity to put it right. And having a goalkeeper of Hermansen's experience of Premier League and Championship is hoped, will be worth several points for us this coming season. Now, of course, as I've said, not all players are going to stay. And of course, we've heard that Crysencio Summerville is heading for the exit door. The winger posted a cryptic message on his social media saying something like, at the right time, the Lord will make it happen, God's plan, or something like that. It certainly feels like the farewell message supporters have been expecting and the Roma fans have been hoping to hear. Reports suggest that, as I've said, we've agreed a deal that's worth up to 50 million euros once add-ons are included. If that's accurate, then it probably represents good business. We bought him for £24 million. We're selling him for almost double that. So what's important now is getting in replacements for the likes of Fernandes and the likes of Summerville. But sometimes we have to accept, we've got to sell in order to then go and do our business in the transfer market. What's important now is, as I've said, we need replacements. Getting the Summerville deal completed means that we can move forward. The Fernandes deal sort of helped with some finances, cash flow, paid off the debt that we owe to Barclays Bank, etc. Now the Summerville deal will help to start financing some other players coming in. So it's good for us because the longer a transfer saga drags on, the harder it becomes. We're already a month in to the transfer window already. We don't want to start losing any more ground. So once this is effectively done, West Ham can start strengthening. And now that's where the attention turns, because there are several names currently linked. Some feel a little bit more advanced than others. And I know I've said that I'm not going to talk about players that I think are completely worthless, but one or two have caught the eye over the last day or so. The first one, which is an interesting read, is Harry Souttar, perhaps one of the most recognisable names that we're apparently linked to. The Australian international centre-back has plenty of championship experience, and he also featured has plenty of championship experience. 6'6" tall, he's dominant in the air, a huge threat from set pieces. Now look, injuries have threatened his career. 2025, he didn't play a single game, but he was back in 2026, and when fully fit, he's exactly the sort of physical defender that could excel in the Championship. Calm on the ball, reads the game well, would add plenty of experience to a defence that which is good for us. Alongside someone like Dinos, he could be good. Look, the priority is Axel Disasi, but if that doesn't happen, then we've got to look elsewhere. Look, he was relegated with Leicester last season, so he's looking for a way back into the Championship. At 27, he'll certainly offer the experience, but if we're promoted, is he going to be good enough for the Premier League? Or should we not be worrying about that just yet? Next up is a player who really kind of sounds like one for the future. However, he's also got experience in the Championship. Jaden Dixon is one of the younger names that we're linked to, still developing, regarded as a very athletic defender, centre-back, excellent recovery pace, and versatile across the back line. Rather than arriving as an immediate guaranteed starter, it probably represents an investment for both the present and the future. However, Arsenal, his main club, are only looking to potentially loan the player out. So with West Ham trying to lower the average age of the squad whilst building long-term value, again, this type of signing fits the wider strategy that we've been hearing about. He spent last season on loan at Stoke City, and Arsenal, as I've said, they may favour sending the young lad out on loan again. He's only 19 years of age, out on loan again, but this time to a club like West Ham who's got that Premier League kind of feel about them. All right, we're playing in the Championship, but he could get an awful lot of experience playing at West Ham this coming season, and that might really, really suit Arsenal as well. Another young defender who we're apparently advanced stage of signing, take that with a pinch of salt, is Dylan Lawler. Highly regarded for his composure and possession and his reading of the game, Lawler is viewed by many scouts as a player with significant upside. He's comfortable bringing the ball out from defence again, something I've said Nuno highly regards. Whether he'd arrive for the first team immediately or develop alongside the senior squad player, I don't know. But he's certainly one to keep an eye on. He won promotion to the Championship with Cardiff last season, so I'm not quite sure why he would want to just move from one Championship club to another. Being the Welsh international, he's very highly regarded, and there's apparently quite a lot of interest in the player from other clubs. And then lastly is Arne Engels, probably the most exciting link for many players. Belgian midfielder has built an impressive reputation over his past couple of seasons at Celtic, thanks to his technical quality, his work rate, and intelligence. He can play as a deep-lying midfielder, as an advanced number 8, or even a slightly wider role if required. He's comfortable on receiving possession under pressure, progresses the ball well, and contributes creatively going forward. At 22 years of age, he's still got quite a lot of, He'd represent exactly the sort of profile many supporters would want at West Ham. A young, technically gifted, energetic player who is still improving. And he actually fits the Niels Koppen. Niels Koppen knows a lot about Belgian football. Niels Koppen will know an awful lot about Scottish football, having been the sports director at Rangers. So the Arne Engels deal feels like one which probably has some momentum about it. But attracting someone like Engels is not going to be easy. He's currently in pre-season training with Celtic, and it's unlikely they're going to welcome any interest in the player. He's still got a contract till 2028, and there is widespread interest from a number of quarters. So competition for his signature is going to be fierce, and he may not come cheap either. But if West Ham are serious about building a squad capable of bouncing straight back into the Premier League whilst preparing for the future, he's exactly the calibre of player supporters should want to target at the club. Overall, this has probably been one of the most encouraging starts of the week so far. Four key players have now committed themselves to West Ham for the upcoming season. Nuno has got the backing of the ownership. Jarrod Bowen remains the captain. Hermansen, Soucek and Mavropanos are staying. Okay, losing Summerville is disappointing, but if the reported fee is correct, West Ham are receiving an excellent value. Now comes the important stage of the rebuild, replacing quality with quality, adding some depth to the squad, building competition throughout the squad, and judging by the names currently being linked, it certainly feels like West Ham's recruitment team are now moving a little bit into top gear. As always, let me know your thoughts. How important are the likes of Bowen, Hermansen, Soucek, and Dinos staying? Is selling Summerville the right decision, or would you rather have kept him? And what about, the likes of Souttar, Dixon, Lawler, Engels? Would you like to see any of them wearing the West Ham shirt this season? If you've enjoyed the show, please do hit the like button, become a subscriber of the channel by hitting that QR code, and hit the bell notification to let you know when I'm next on. And I'll see you all again pretty soon.